How the 1% actually buys life insurance is they buy it for multiple purposes. And a lot of folks think first life insurance is somebody has to die in order for someone else to benefit. It's a savings mechanism, a vehicle to position capital. Outside of the Wall Street casino, growth is tax-free accessibility. And that's why it's used in family offices based on the Rockefeller family office model.
Today's guest is a husband, dad, businessman, and investor. He's the founder of Producers Wealth. It's a wealth firm that helps business owners and investors set up systems that optimize their cash flow and create a lifetime of tax-free liquidity and income. He's also the creator and host of the Cash Flow Ninja Investing podcast and the facilitator of the Cash Flow Nirvana Mastermind. And that's a community of business owners and investors that want to protect and build wealth during turbulent times. And, you know, I've been in both the real estate and the media industries for quite a while now, and I can easily see who the takers are and who the givers are, and he is one of the givers. So it's great to welcome back to GRE, the Cash Flow Ninja, MC LAUBSCHER.
Thank you so much for having me back, Keith. It's great to be here. I've been looking forward to our conversation.
He's a Pennsylvanian. I'm a native Pennsylvanian, so we've got that in common. And MC, one thing I see you often doing is helping people eliminate their blind spots. Us investors get pretty passionate and we're into chasing the next deal, and we should be, but you're good at helping people avoid mistakes. And it actually makes sense that you specialize in helping people avoid mistakes. Now, maybe it's not quite the same with the GRE audience, but for most people, their financial education is so low that really I should ask, what do you think is the worst thing that one can currently do in today's financial environment?
Yeah, I think that business owners and investors are so focused on their businesses and their real estate investments, and they do really well because of it, right? Because they're so laser focused on it. But sometimes it's great just to take a step back and just take a look at the big picture and the entire wealth strategy that you're trying to implement and execute. And like I said, they move things forward really, really aggressively in their business and their real estate. And while they're spending their time aggressively focusing on that, there could be other wealth destroyers that's sneaking up on them, unbeknownst to them. And this could really, really eliminate a lot of what they've built. It's very important to build wealth and multiply wealth, but not so much fun if you're building it and multiplying it to give it back because you forgot the protection part. So one of the big things that we're looking at right now as we're looking at the landscape, and this is globally, by the way. I know that we have a North American and especially a huge audience in the United States listening to us, but it's globally that governments are very much in debt. And whether it is national, federal, whether it is state or provincial, whether it's local governments, and they're all basically, for lack of a better terminology, they're broke. Most of them. Almost all of them. And how do you know how somebody's going to react in the future? Well, you look at their past behaviors, and it'll give you a sense of a high probability indicator of how they will react in the future. So they don't produce anything. They don't really create anything. They facilitate a lot of stuff. And in order for them to facilitate that, they need tax revenue. That's how they get revenue. And to answer your question, what's one of the things that business owners and investors should absolutely not be doing right now is postponing and deferring as much taxes as they can onto a later date. So one of the things from a philosophical standpoint on taxes is we like to control when we pay taxes, how much we pay in taxes legally, and we like to pay taxes on the seed, not the harvest. So as folks are so focused in their business and investments, this is sometimes forgotten. So a lot of the things that we share with regards to defensive strategies, I have a sports background, so I always talk about, defense, that wins you the championships. Great offense wins you games. And you need both of them, by the way. But a rock-solid defense right now is very, very important, especially if you're looking at things are unfolding politically, like globally. And it doesn't even matter which party, if it's if it's the red team or the blue team that's in charge, they're all going to come to the same conclusion and essentially raise taxes. So you don't want to be deferring taxes right now. You don't want to postpone taxes. You do want to have a tax strategy in place.
MC is from South Africa. Part of his sports background is rugby, in case you were wondering. And, it's quite an irony and a paradox that the most powerful nation in the world, the United States, is almost $32 trillion in debt, $250,000 in debt per taxpayer. So as you wrap your head around that, really the translation and the summary is that you feel that tax rates are going to be higher later, which is a fairly popular opinion for that reason, so that debts and deficits can be reduced over the long term. I mean, at some point, the interest payments alone on the national debt are pretty scary and rising at an exponential rate lately. But I think the point is that you're saying that you don't want to defer taxes because you would have to pay more later, or is there any sort of optimization around this avoiding deferring taxes?
Yeah, when you look at the wealth strategy of probably 99% of people, they have their qualified retirement plans, they maybe have a primary residence, and then they start building out a portfolio of alternative assets such as real estate. And what we are looking at is, well, how could you position capital that you're generating right now better in the future into vehicles that will not be taxed later, but actually will be tax-free to you at that point, and how you could potentially move capital that you've already positioned in qualified retirement plans into more efficient vehicles from a tax standpoint.
Well, talk to us about how we can do that.
There's a lot of different ways to do it. Obviously, the big thing becomes liquidity, right? So where do real estate investors and also business owners want to position their liquidity? Well, you want to position it in a vehicle that you'll be able to access that vehicle to grow your business and buy more real estate and grow your real estate investment portfolio. So yeah, you can do it through self-directed qualified retirement plans too, but that has the tax implications to that. So what we've used in our strategy overall is the vehicle of life insurance, and we've used it. A lot of folks have heard about infinite banking. They've heard about bank on yourself. There's so many terminologies out for it, but essentially what it is, it's a vehicle of structured specifically, a life insurance vehicle for high cash value immediately. And we use a dividend paying a life insurance policy with a mutual insurance company. And the reason why we use it is we can position capital in there. It's guaranteed. It's growing tax-free. I can access it tax-free at any time to grow my business and or to buy more real estate, to use it for down payments or to use it just to manage real estate. And then also, essentially down the line, I'll be able to draw a tax-free income from it to supplement my income in the back nine of my life. So it does a lot of different things for you there. So I think the big thing is of the positioning of this capital is, where can you position capital that you have a lifetime of liquidity to access to grow your business and your investment portfolio with real estate, and that you eventually can pull from a tax-free income stream if you need to be. So that was one of the things that we shared. But one thing that I also wanted to mention too, Keith, is the importance of, besides a tax strategy that I mentioned, is the importance, another part of your defensive strategy is your asset protection and your estate planning. So a lot of folks might have a tax strategy that are business owners and investors. They might have heard myself and others speak about the power of this vehicle of this life insurance strategy with infinite banking, but they completely forget about the asset protection side and the estate planning. Most folks set up their asset protection or their estate planning once. They don't review it. They don't stay on top of it. Things change and so forth. So I just wanted to add that too, to give the big picture. So from a defensive standpoint, yeah, you want to be aware of all of the different wealth destroyers that's out there that could potentially bite you down the road because you didn't think about it. You're only focusing on the now, not and what's in front of you, not the big picture. So have a proper tax strategy in place. Revisit that at all times. Have an asset protection and an estate plan strategy in place, and revisit and update that as frequently as possible. And then have money in a vehicle which is a tax-free vehicle that you can access tax-free and eventually pull income from it tax-free down the line as well.
The infinite banking strategy, it's a concept that Nelson Nash is credited with pioneering decades ago. And if you're hearing about it for the first time here, the listener, the viewer, it might sound a bit confusing to you. What is this, using life insurance, or is this a legitimate vehicle? But it can really optimize your efficiency from a tax standpoint over the long term. So I sure don't think we want to get down into all of the nuances of the infinite banking strategy, MC, but can you just drill down and tell us how that is of benefit to someone?
Yeah, so how this is structured, and a lot of folks think first life insurance is somebody has to die in order for someone else to benefit. And that's how it's sold to the majority of the public. But how the 1% actually buys life insurance is they buy it for multiple purposes. Yes, the death benefit is great, but what they actually buy it for is it's a savings mechanism, a vehicle to position capital. And they position capital in these policies because it's outside of the Wall Street casino. That's why they use mutual insurance companies. And the capital inside these mutual insurance companies, inside of these dividend-paying whole life insurance policies that are structured specifically for high cash value, is a great vehicle to warehouse that in because of the guarantees of the capital that's in there, the guarantees on the growth. The growth is tax-free, the tax-free accessibility. And then, there's also a ton of other riders that you can add to it for your family and your business continuation strategies, right? So, for example, a disability rider can be added to it. And it is a tax-free death benefit, which goes tax-free to the beneficiary, which could be a spouse, children, it could be a trust. And that's why it's used in family offices based on the Rockefeller family office model, where they use these policies as a mechanism to warehouse this wealth, because as I mentioned before, from a tax point of view, which is the biggest threat that's out there for especially a very long-term wealth strategy, a multi-generational strategy, that's one thing. And then the other thing too is the erosion and division between family members. So if you keep it together and you protect it properly in trusts, there would be a efficient transfer of wealth to the next generation without it being eroded or divided. So it can play a really core a role for any real estate investor, because you'll always have access to tax-free liquidity when you need it to position capital in. So if you need capital to manage your current real estate investments, you can access that. Tenants pay late, something breaks in a property, well, you can use that as your reserve account for that. And then also when opportunities come up in the future, you'll be able to tap into that vehicle to use it for a down payment or to use it to just purchase the property cash. So it does many, many different things for you as a business owner and as an investor. We could get access to it very, very quickly. It's not a bank account that with an ATM card, but 48 to 72 hours, you can have a wire right into your account, and you can have access to it.
Now, we've been talking about the tax and other benefits of the infinite banking strategy that creatively uses life insurance. And don't be concerned when I say creatively, there's nothing nefarious there. People have been using this vehicle successfully for decades. You're listening to Get Rich Education. Again, our guest is MC LAUBSCHER. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold.